who at the time of her arrest was a middle school English teacher, had allegedly gotten a sperm sample from her husband, baked that sperm into some cupcakes, and brought the cupcakes into her classroom, where she then served those baked goods to her own students.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook. Anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Comment it down below. Greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
This feels like it should have been common sense, but for some reason I never thought about it. This is how long fire hydrants actually are under the surface. I don't even know if I needed to know. I also just found out that there is a lake in Denmark that is shaped like a map of the world that's been handcrafted by one man for the last 25 years. Michael Jackson was 25 years, 4 months, and 29 days old when his hair caught fire while filming a Pepsi commercial. He died exactly 25 years, 4 months, and 29 days later, making that the moment as the exact midpoint of his life. The world's only blue McDonald's exists just because yellow signs are banned in Sedona, Arizona. Since 1980, California has built 22 prisons, but only one university. Sweden is apparently so good at waste management that it imports waste from other countries just to keep its plants running. Over 80% of the world has never been on an airplane. There is a man who visited every country on Earth without ever getting on an airplane, and it took him 10 years to do it.
Facts that will make you think.
Whoa.
There are some castles that are worth less than New York apartments. The Earth is around this many years old. There's literally a chance that we live in a simulation. Around 10% of people still can't read or write.
What you're looking at is not cute at all. In fact, you should scroll if you're not trying to cry. That's a gibbon. If you haven't seen them, you for sure heard them. Gibbons are the closest to past tense primates in the world, thanks to a wombo combo of poaching, pets, and property development. That last part is crucial because this branch warrior travels through trees. Knocking them down is like taking out the interstate, and it can cut them off from the rest of their family. Arms long, but ain't nothing humorous, so a lot of these knuckle draggers end up getting habituated to humans and seeing people as family. That's what happened with Kalia. Kalia is a western Hulak gibbon in India who lost her entire family, and she adopted the people around her, especially Ningda, the man that saved her. That's not him, by the way. I couldn't find pictures of him. Gibbons are social animals and groom each other. Not the Minecraft way, but salon service each other. So Kalia would climb down from the trees and groom the people on the ground. Actually, she didn't stop at people, and they just accepted it. Mind you, this was a wild gibbon. This wasn't a trick. It was a choice, and spend enough time here and she'll check you too. Or at least she would. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, you should have scrolled. Too late now, you're invested. Apparently, some kid taunted Kalia with a slingshot, and revenge was a gibbon. And a gibbon. Kalia bit the boy, and in response, the boy's father pulled up with a shovel, and that was the end of Kalia the gibbon. Which broke the heart of Bhupeshwar Ningda, who basically looked after her in the 90s after she lost her mate and baby. Mind you, it's believed there's only hundreds of them left in the world. There's the context you didn't ask for. The more you know.
The two brothers who took their parents' lives 35 years ago may now have an opportunity to be released this year. In 1989, Eric and Lyle Menendez took their parents' lives, Jose and Kitty Menendez, inside their home in Beverly Hills. The brothers were convicted of first-degree murder and were given life sentences without the possibility of parole. But the thing that has a lot of people questioning whether this was fair or not is the amount of evidence they have against their father showing that he essayed them growing up. Their father, who was an executive in the entertainment industry, had a lot of power, and Eric and Lyle were terrified of him. They were essayed by their father from a very young age until they were teenagers, and they even told their mother, but nothing was ever done. After taking their parents' lives out of fear, new evidence was revealed that their father also drugged and Ard, a 13-year-old boy named Roy Rosello, who was part of a popular Puerto Rican singing group called Menudo at the time. What I find so surprising about this is the amount of support Eric and Lyle have received from family members on both sides who truly believe them and are calling for justice. But on the other hand, there seems to be a conflict of interest. An attorney named Kathy Katie was just appointed to be the new director of the Bureau of Victim Services, which makes no sense because she's also the lawyer for the only family member of the Menendez brothers who strongly believes that Eric Eric and Lyle should stay in prison for the rest of their lives. Many people believe that the brothers were not given a fair chance during their trial and deserve to be resentenced, which could now potentially happen at a hearing on March 20th. If you guys want to support Eric and Lyle's resentencing, you can share this post with the hashtag Justice for Eric and Lyle or email the DA through the website's form and tell them you support resentencing.
Did I get denied? I think it got denied because it would have been trending if they were free. That case, man. Twists and turns.
Cum-filled cupcakes were served to children by this teacher in Louisiana. Meet Cynthia Perkins, and let me warn you, this story is incredibly disturbing. So back in 2019, investigators were tipped off about this woman, Cynthia, and her husband, Dennis. Apparently, some images had surfaced depicting the couple graping a child. And when investigators finally swept in October of 2019 and arrested the couple, what they found out was disturbing. Cynthia, who at the time of her arrest was a middle school English teacher, had allegedly gotten a sperm sample from her husband, baked that sperm into some cupcakes, and brought the cupcakes into her classroom, where she then served those baked goods to her own students. When the police raided the couple's home, they found hidden cameras in the bathrooms and in the attic, and they uncovered a lot of evidence that the couple had been producing child pornography, with a victim under the age of 13 years old. Cynthia at first was unrepentant and tried to pin this all on her husband, but shortly after they were arrested, she divorced her husband and admitted that she had, yes, taken part in this entire thing, and just last year she was sentenced to over 40 years of prison time. Now, her husband Dennis was actually a sheriff's deputy, and in a completely unrelated case, another woman was found guilty of helping Dennis grape, a woman who was completely unconscious. And yes, they filmed the attack. So these two were serial predators and offenders. And this story just goes to show that these people don't look evil. Predators come in all shapes and sizes, even teachers.
Jalissa, hi. Can you tell me what's happening there? Yes, I just killed my daughter. How old is your daughter? 3. Is there anyone else in the house? God. And how did you kill your daughter? I tried strangling her. That didn't work, so I stabbed her with a knife in the neck and chest. And what area of the house is she in? She's on the floor in the living room. Do you still have the knife? I do. Is it in your hand? No.
He made tacos out of her
Chilling.
Alvaro and Maria had been married for about a year and were living in Mexico. Although they didn't have children together, Maria was a mother to 5 children from a previous marriage. Alvaro wasn't the best husband, as he had an addiction to substances, and he was very violent towards Maria's children and would even spy on them when they were taking a shower. On June 29th of 2023, Alvaro was under the influence when he took Maria's life. He dismembered her body and placed it in a plastic bag. Some of Maria's body parts were left at the home while others were left at a ravine. Alvaro ate part of Maria's brain in tacos and used her shattered skull as an ashtray. 2 days after he did this, he told Maria's daughter what he had did to her mom and to come collect her body parts. Maria's body was chopped up by using a machete, hammer, and a chisel. Once law enforcement was notified, they found a black magic altar during the investigation. Alvaro confessed everything and claimed that the devil made him do it. On July 2nd, Alvaro was arrested and he is currently awaiting trial.
On Tuesday, the judge asked Diddy how he's doing and his position on taking the stand himself. This was the first time Diddy was heard speaking in court. His exchange with the judge has been voiced by an actor.
I'm doing great, Your Honor. I've been wanting to tell you thank you. You're doing an excellent job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The judge questioned Diddy on whether or not he has fully discussed with his attorneys the decision not to take the stand. Diddy replied emphatically that he has thoroughly spoken to his team about it. The judge wanted to confirm that Diddy understood that this decision was his and his alone, and to that Diddy responded, quote, "Yes, my decision, I'm making it."
Just to recap for a second on the original charges against Diddy, he was charged with 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 charges of sex trafficking, and 2 charges of transportation to engage in prostitution. And he's obviously pleaded not guilty to all charges.
I heard like this week, then they said they dropped most of those major charges, right? People talking about he's about to be free.
Sports with the highest probability of death. Base jumping 1 in 2,300 people. Wingsuit flying 1 in 500 people. Cave diving 5 in 100 people. Extreme parkour 1 in 75 people. Free solo climbing 1 in 50 people.
I want to talk about one of the scariest ghost videos I've seen come out of a military base. So this is security footage from one of the gates at the Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. This is coming from a podcast episode I just did on one of the most haunted military bases in the entire world, but that gate has a very dark past. For context, Kadena Air Base is located in a particularly haunted part of Okinawa, Japan. Over 100,000 people died on the island in World War II, and most of them were innocent civilians. Fast forward to today, but people who work at the gates at Kadena Air Base say that they see people from World War II trying to get onto the base all the time, and it's usually in the dead of night. There's all these stories of men in like bomber jackets and olive trousers showing up to the gate past midnight, and when the guard turns back around to let them into the base, they're completely gone. And most people thought these were just legends, but then this video surfaced. In this video, 2 guards are watching the security footage at the gate while this shadow behind this sign here starts moving around. At first they think it's just a shadow, but then it like moves off screen in a weird way, and then it hangs out at the top of the screen for a while and then completely flies away. And you think people would be fast to point out like, oh, this is just a bug or something on the camera, but when you look at the comments, everyone is talking about all these horrible, terrifying experiences that they also had at Kadena. If you want to hear some of those experiences, as well as other ghost stories from Kadena and Okinawa in general, definitely check out this episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
It would make sense, man. How that place would have some bad energy there. Like she said, it was during World War II, and it was all civilians. And we literally seen it 4K proof with ourselves, man. And comments down below they green too, so I guess, man, I haven't been to Japan before, but we're gonna stay away from that area.
Craziest coincidences in history. On December 5th, 1664, a ship sank off the coast of Wales, UK. All 81 passengers on the ship lost their lives in the wreck, except for one survivor. His name was Hugh Williams. Then on December 5th, 1785, another ship sank in the same location. Everyone perished except for one man, once again named Hugh Williams. In 1820, yet another ship met the same fate in that very spot. Only one survivor emerged, and his name was, as you might have guessed, Hugh Williams. But the final part of this story will blow your mind. Another shipwreck occurred in that same area in 1889. Some sources reported that this final disaster took place on the 5th of December that year. However, the truth is that this shipwreck actually occurred on August 19, 1889. They likely reported December 5 to make this coincidence sound even scarier, but it is already terrifying enough as it is. That is because on August 19, 1889, a coal barge sank in that same location. But this time, there were 2 survivors. And if you are thinking one of them was named Hugh Williams, you are mistaken, because both of them were named Hugh Williams. Sophomore?
It's literally when I thought I've heard it all, I'm telling y'all, it's that one time I thought I've heard it all, and it's that one time I'm like, what in the world, y'all? This girl right here, her name is Katie, and she was adopted, and she wanted to figure out who her biological family was, right? That's kind of a normal thing for a lot of people who are adopted. So she goes on good old Facebook and figures out that this man right here is her biological father. Now, she goes on to find out that he's married and he has 2 children, I believe. And she connects with them. Now, she even ends up moving in with them and sleeping on the floor in their house, and finds out that him and his wife have an estranged relationship. Now, they end up, her and her biological father, end up having a sexual relationship with one another and getting married. This is their wedding photo right here. But they didn't disclose to anybody that they were actual biological father and daughter. They even ended up having a child together. They had a little baby boy together, y'all. And eventually, she ends up wanting to end this situation, and she gives him the ring. He goes absolutely crazy and unalives this poor little baby, and then goes to her house where she's staying with her adoptive family, follows her where they're driving from to, and unalives her as well. This is really one of those cases, like I said, when I thought I heard it all, it's always that one case that really just floors me.
Morbid Facts, Part 568. In 1915, a strange illness called encephalitis lethargica broke out across the globe. Nicknamed the sleeping sickness, the disease attacked the patient's brains, leaving them frozen in a statue-like state, fully conscious but unable to move or speak. One of the most haunting aspects of this disease was its unpredictability. Some patients recovered quickly, never experiencing any long-term effects, while others went into a deep coma and never woke up. Then there were patients who seemed completely recovered, until years later when the illness came back and suddenly turned them catatonic. At least 500,000 people died from the terrifying disease before it vanished without explanation 10 years later, just as suddenly as it appeared. While many theories have been put forth over the last century, epidemiologists still remain haunted by the mysterious sickness and its unknown origins. Some say it never left, but still lingers in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike again.
Disturbing things found by YouTubers. In this 2021 YouTube video, this YouTuber and his friend are vlogging their camping experience in the countryside of Boxhole. Everything proceeds smoothly. They can be seen setting things up for the night, having dinner together, and finally, going to sleep each one on his truck. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, the YouTuber can be seen waking up terrified.
We hear that, right?
Things you won't believe are true. Sunflowers have been used to clean up radiation. One of the ingredients in dynamite is peanuts. Elephants can use their feet to hear via seismic waves. Octopuses have 9 brains and 3 hearts. And the human brain can't feel pain itself, it can only detect it.
Disturbing facts about the Wizard of Oz you'll regret knowing about. The snowstorm that took place in Poppy Field was actually asbestos. The cowardly lion costume was made of real lion skin and hair. The face mask that Ray Bolger wore for his scarecrow costume was so heavy and tight that it nearly suffocated him. Judy Garland was on a strict diet of black coffee, chicken noodles, and cigarettes, and along with diet pills to reduce her appetite. Her mother introduced her to pep pills as a way to help her give an energetic performance.
Dang, man, that movie was cursed.
Have you ever wondered how rare your body is? If you have golden blood, you are one of 48 known humans on Earth. 1% of people carry a gene mutation that lets them sleep for 4 hours a night without feeling tired. I want to know when we can clone that, because that would be great to have, honestly. 0.1% of people are born with a tiny hole near their ear that has been said to possibly trace back to fish gills. 1 in 10,000 people have a second row of eyelashes that grows from their eyelid. 0.5% of people have an extra rib bone growing from their neck instead of their spine. 0.06% of humans have eyes with 2 completely different colors. Only 5% of the population in the world has amber colored eyes. 5% of people have extra taste buds that make bitterness and sweetness way more intense. Less than 1% of people have a gene mutation that makes their bones nearly unbreakable. Only 10% of people can voluntarily wiggle their ears. I definitely cannot do that. 35% of people never get at least one of their wisdom teeth, not even hidden under their gums.
Nobody knew who this man was, and nobody knows who he is till this day. All that we know is he erased his identity successfully. This man came in a taxi to a hotel in Northern Ireland from supposedly Austria. He had a fabricated identity. He went by the name of Peter Bergman, and his address was fake. It was somewhere in Austria. The hotel receptionist didn't really think anything of it. He had a thick German accent, and, he could pass for German. Now, he stayed at this hotel for 3 nights, and in those 3 nights, you can see him on the CCTV footage leaving 13 separate times. The weird thing about this, every time he left, he would take something out with him, like his bag or whatever, and he would come back with nothing left or nothing inside of it. Like, sometimes he would leave with a plastic bag filled with items, he would return, nothing in his hands. He had some weird behavior too. Apparently when they were trying to clean his room, they knocked, he wasn't there. Then they entered after a period of time, assuming he wasn't there. He didn't have the do not disturb on his door or anything. And when they broke into it, he looked very spooked, as if, they caught him in the middle of something he shouldn't be doing. The next day he called a taxi to take him to a beach. He asked for beach recommendations at the front desk. He went to the beach, stood there for a few minutes, got back in the taxi, and then went back to the hotel. A little strange, but okay. The next day and the third day, he checked out of the hotel. He had his 3 bags on him, a luggage, a crossbody bag, and then a purple plastic bag. Except the luggage, the suitcase, wasn't the original one he walked in with. It was a completely different one. So what happened to his original one? They didn't catch him leaving with it or anything. It was also never recovered, too. He left with 3 things, the luggage, the paper bag, and then the crossbody bag, whatever it was. And when he got to the bus stop, just a few minutes ahead, He only had 2 of those 3 items on him now. What happened to the third thing? His body was discovered the next day at 6:45 a.m. by a father and son practicing for a triathlon. His luggage and shoulder bag were never recovered. He had random belongings scattered on the shore. He apparently was washed up. However, that's not how he died. An autopsy report revealed a cardiac event. So he had a heart attack and then died. An autopsy was done. They found multiple cancers. He had prostate cancer, bone cancer, and ischemic heart disease. A 5-month investigation was launched to find out who this man was, and despite efforts, nobody ever concluded who exactly he was. What's even sadder, the medical examiner even said, with all these, cancers and the ischemic heart disease, this man was in constant pain all the time. It's likely he was just sick of it and, he was just taking a trip. He knew the end was near. He's now buried in an unmarked grave in Sligo, Ireland. It's not clear how he arrived in Northern Ireland, where his journey began, or where it really ended. Many people thought foul play was involved, but foul play was not involved. Others claim he knew the end was near and he wanted to make peace and just end it here. That's why he had these odd things, going to the beach on the taxi, doing everything else. But nothing is concluded yet. That's just the assumption right now. Will we ever know the bottom of this case? Probably not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
On the evening of how did he just disappear his whole identity like that? Even 5 months later, they couldn't track it down. Track his true identity down.
Thursday, May 21st, 2015, a 16-year-old girl named Lily walked into the home gym inside of her house in Hong Kong looking to do a workout. As soon as she walked in, she saw her dad was in there, and he was doing some sort of cool-down exercise on a yoga ball. So Lily's dad, whose name was Ka Kim-sun, was a doctor, and normally at this time of the day, she would never see him in the gym. He was typically locked upstairs in his study, so for him to be here, it just didn't really line up with his schedule. And so Lily asked her dad, what are you doing here? What's going on? And her dad would tell her, well, actually, work at the hospital was really slow today, so I took off. I'm just doing some cool down exercises because I got nothing else to do, but I'll be out of your hair in a second. The next day, May 22nd, around 1 o'clock, normally Lily would be at school, but she had had the day off that day, and she had wanted to spend her day off seeing friends, but her dad was really focused on her being successful academically, and he told her, you were going to stay home and you were going to study all day long. You will not leave the house. That's what you're doing. Lily's mom looked over at her and said, I'm not going to make you study all day. Come on, let's go out and have a mother-daughter shopping day. About 2 hours later, around 4:15 p.m., a local jogger noticed there was this yellow Mini Cooper car sitting on the side of the road, not moving, but it was still on. And so the jogger was curious, and so they ran past and made a point to look inside the car, and they saw 2 women in the front 2 seats of this car slumped over. The 2 women were Lily and her mother. Police were called. They dragged Lily and her mother out of the car. They were totally unresponsive. They were rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. They both died. The police would begin their investigation into their deaths by searching the yellow Mini Cooper car. And when they searched it, there really was nothing of note inside of it. For the next 6 months, the police tirelessly looked for some lead as to what happened to this mother and daughter. And so right as this case appeared like it was about to go cold, the detectives decided to just go back to the Mini Cooper and see if maybe, just maybe, they missed something. And sure enough, they had. It would turn out, on May 22nd, 2015, the day that Lily and her mother died, Lily's father had told Lily to stay home and study, not because he cared about her academics. Instead, he wanted her to stay home all day to protect her. When police originally searched Lily's mom's car, they found the 2 women's purses and also some basic exercise equipment in the trunk, specifically a deflated yoga ball. It would turn out the yoga ball did have something to do with it. 2 days before the women were found dead, that yoga ball was inside of Lily's home. Ka Kim-sun had taken that yoga ball to the hospital where he worked and filled it with carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless, poisonous gas. And his plan was to put the yoga ball in his wife's car, unplug it, and then when his wife got in the car and shut the door, she would effectively suffocate and die. He didn't try to kill his daughter, though. Ka Kim-sun was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. He has never explained his motive.
Last week, a girl who was walking to school found a severed arm near a park, and over the course of a week, multiple other body parts have been found strewn across Babylon, New York. This case is honestly terrifying. So on February 29th, a girl found a severed left arm near a park in Babylon and called the police. weeks. When the Suffolk County Police Department arrived, they, along with cadaver dogs, then found a human leg in a pile of leaves nearby. After thoroughly searching the scene, they then found a right arm, a severed head, and many more body parts in the park. Authorities were able to confirm that the remains belonged to a 53-year-old man and a 59-year-old woman, but their identities have not yet been released to the public. A week after this grisly discovery, more human remains were found in Bethpage State Park in Farmingdale, just a few miles away, and it was confirmed that the remains belonged to the same victims. So far, human remains have been found in 3 different locations in Suffolk County, leaving behind a chilling mystery. Since the discovery, these 4 people have been arrested in connection to the crime. They are Stephen Brown, Jeffrey Mackey, Amanda Wallace, and Alexis Neves, and they all reportedly lived together at a home in Amityville. They have since been charged with hindering prosecution, tampering with physical evidence, and concealment of a human corpse. But here's the thing. They've all since been given supervised release, meaning they're all walking free in the public right now. Their release is based solely on the fact that at the moment they have not been charged with the killing of the 2 victims. So according to authorities, they're free to go until their next court appearance, or if new evidence is found where authorities are able to press additional charges. All 4 suspects are required to wear GPS monitoring bracelets and are ordered to stay in Suffolk County. The only thing is that they aren't allowed to return to their Amityville apartment due to inoperable plumbing, which was reportedly removed during the police investigation. It's insane to me that they've all been released because authorities searched their house and what they found is horrifying. Police found cutting tools, a meat cleaver, and traces of human remains, but according to police, that isn't enough evidence to prove who killed and dismembered the 2 victims and why. So far, a motive has not been released, but authorities are investigating the case as a possible love triangle. One of the suspects allegedly dismembered his girlfriend and a man that he believes she cheated with, but this has not been officially confirmed. It's just been reported by a source who claims to be familiar with the matter. As for the 2 victims, not a lot of information has been released about them, although police do believe that they may have lived together in Yonkers. But at this moment, their relationship to the suspects remains a mystery.
It's literally all been 4K.
Stop scrolling because this has to be one of the scariest skinwalker encounters ever. Reddit user NoPlan9840 said that when she was 16, she snuck out of her home at around 3 a.m. to go smoke in the woods in Lynn, Massachusetts. She said that it wasn't a huge section of woods, just a small reservation in the middle of the Boston suburbs. She got to the entrance of the trail, parked her car, and made her way to the campsites where there were fire pits available. As she stood there by the fire, she heard something on 4 legs come up behind her. She didn't sweat it much because she said that the worst thing it could be around there was a coyote. But then she heard it transition to 2 legs and walk with a bipedal gait. She said that everything went silent and all she could hear was the crackling of the campfire. She started to get concerned that something bad was about to happen. She thought that maybe it was a homeless man working up the courage to come up and ask her for money. So she called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" Silence still for about a minute. She said that everything inside of her was telling her to run, but then she thought to herself that if it's an animal trying to hunt her, then she should stand her ground and make herself appear not worth the risk. Then, whatever it was talked. She said that it sounded almost like a parrot mimicking its owner's voice, and it asked to bum a light. It said, "Can I bum a light?" She said that at first she was relieved because at least she knew that it wasn't an animal, but the way it spoke was truly uncanny. She said, "Sure, but you have to come out where I can see you. You're giving me the creeps, dude." And then it asked again and again, 3 times. Then she said that she was really freaked out and she knew something was really wrong. She told it to go away and find someone else to ask if he was going to be creepy about it. Then it ran off on all 4s. You could hear all 4 feet hitting the ground as it ran away. The crickets came back, the night birds started chirping again, and the air even felt warmer. She said that a feeling of dread came over her and she knew that she had to book it. She calmly packed all her stuff up, put out the fire, and started to walk back to her car. She wanted to run, but she thought that maybe if she played it cool, whatever it was would back off. She finally saw her car about 200 feet ahead of her and began to calm down. She felt secure enough to look behind her, and sure enough, about 40 feet behind her was a male deer standing on its hind legs in the middle of the trail. She said that at this point she lost all composure and freaked out. She ran as fast as she could to her car and pulled out of the parking lot before she could even turn her headlights on.
So he experienced a...
I believe that skinwalker story, man. Been hearing clips about it. The way she described it, man, said it was a deer, ran away on all 4s.
break-in, which must have obviously been terrifying, but he killed the intruder, and then instead of ringing the police, he decided to live with his mummified corpse for 15 years. It was 2017 in Sydney, Australia. Bruce Roberts lived alone in the area, and he was pretty well known for being a prolific hoarder. However, nobody had any idea of the disturbing possession he was keeping in his home. Neighbors, as I said, described Bruce as reclusive. He very much kept himself to himself. He was kind of one of those people that was very socially awkward. He would rather just stay in the house rather than socialize with people. And even if anybody wanted to be nosy about what was going on inside Bruce's home, they really wouldn't be able to. His home was so full of junk you couldn't even see inside of the window. But neighbors did tend to keep a bit of an eye on Bruce and just make sure that he was, still alive. And when locals hadn't seen or heard from Bruce for a while, they asked police to do a welfare check. Police did do this. They showed up and entered the house, and tragically, they found what neighbors were fearing. Bruce was deceased inside his home from natural causes. But obviously, when they went in, there was a smell. The state of the home was absolutely shocking. They had no idea that the state of the home was actually concealing a second body. As I said, there was this death smell, but they pretty much put that down to Bruce being found dead there and just the general mess and uncleanness of this house. It wasn't until a staggering nearly 2 years later that they found body number 2. Cleaners had started the huge process of deep cleaning this property in order to sell it now that Bruce had passed away. They were prepping this home for sale when they found the body of 39-year-old Shane Snellman. Now, Shane was a local known criminal. He'd been released from jail in 2002, and shortly after this had seemingly broken into Bruce's home in an effort to rob him for substance money. But this break-in went completely wrong for Shane when Bruce ended up hearing him breaking into his house and shooting him. Then, instead of telling the police, he decided to just hide the dead body in a rug, and he kept it in his spare bedroom for 15 years. Needless to say, the smell was absolutely unbelievable. There was evidence of over 70 air freshener cans that he'd had to buy over the years to try and conceal the smell of rotting flesh.
Damn, 15 years, bro? He was that big of a hoarder, man? But the police didn't even know.
Barry Morphew has just been arrested and charged with the murder of his wife, Suzanne Morphew, 5 years after she disappeared. Here is all the background of Suzanne's case and what led up to his arrest, the second time he has been arrested in this case. On Mother's Day 2020, 49-year-old mother of 2, Suzanne Morphew, was reported missing. She disappeared from her home in the small town of Salida, Colorado, where she lived with her husband and 2 daughters. Her husband, Barry Morphew, was the last known person to see her alive. The day she was reported missing, he told police that she planned to go on a bike ride while he was out of town on a work trip. After she was reported missing, Suzanne's mountain bike and helmet were found in separate spots not far from her home. But investigators suspected that the bike had been purposefully thrown down into a ravine because there was no indications of a crash. After she went missing, Barry and her family were frantically searching for her, and Barry even posted a video on Facebook pleading for her safe return. And it seemed like he was extremely worried about his wife. Or at least that's how it seemed at first. In May 2021, a year after Suzanne disappeared and still no sign of where she was, Barry Morphew was charged with her murder. Despite the charges, he has always maintained his innocence. But reportedly, he said his wife insisted on leaving him and then later changed his statements as evidence developed. Wow. Morphew did not initially tell investigators that he went out of his way as he left for work on Mother's Day, driving toward the place where his wife's bicycle helmet was eventually found. Later, he said he went that way because he had seen an elk cross the road, and he is an avid hunter. But investigators also uncovered a screenshot of a text message from Suzanne on Barry's phone that said, "I'm done. I could care less what you're up to and have been for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." And this screenshot was from May 6th, just 4 days before Suzanne was reported missing. So he was facing charges and was about to go to trial, pleading not guilty, and right before he could, prosecutors dropped the case due to prosecutorial issues with evidence. Prosecutors reportedly repeatedly failed to
follow rules for turning over evidence in Morphew's favor, including DNA from an unknown male that was found inside of Suzanne's SUV. A judge barred prosecutors from calling key witnesses because of this, so they had to drop the case. And at the time, prosecutors said that they wanted more time to find Suzanne's body. The judge agreed to drop the case against Barry Morphew, but allowed prosecutors the option of filing charges against him later. And the case went cold. After the charges against Morphew were dropped, he filed a $15 million lawsuit against county officials, accusing them of violating his constitutional rights. His lawyers also filed a complaint asking that the prosecutors be disciplined for allegedly intentionally withholding evidence. His daughters have stood by his side through this all, believing his innocence. And like I said, Suzanne's case went cold. No one knew where she was.
Into her couch. Well, the people responsible for this have been sentenced. But let me remind you guys a little bit about 36-year-old Lacey. In 2022, she was found deceased on her family's couch, and apparently she sat there for 12 years without moving. So how exactly does that happen? Well, Lacey had severe autism and she was nonverbal, so she solely depended on her parents as her caregiver. But after years of neglect, she weighed less than 100 pounds. She was found covered in maggots at her own waist. And again, this is how the couch looked like when they found Lacey deceased. Lacey's cause of death was acute medical neglect, and ultimately her parents, Sheila and Clay Fletcher, were each sentenced this month to 40 years, but will only be serving 20 years in prison. Now, what's outrageous is that her parents, who went from this to this, testified that their daughter refused any medical attention. How can someone who couldn't communicate and completely relied on them refuse medical attention? A 36-year-old weighing less than 100 pounds. Let that sink in. This tragedy could have been prevented. There is no excuse.
Gross habits that are
case,
actually
man.
good for you. It's healthy for your stomach to burp after a meal because it means it's getting rid of excess air. When you bite your nails, you're actually consuming some of the bacteria under your fingernail. As a result, your immune system begins producing white blood cells, which fights against bacteria. Children who bite their nails or suck on their thumb are less likely to develop allergies, according to research. Before the last one, I just found this super addicting game that you'll never want to get rid of. You build your own kingdom and destroy others, and you can get it right here. Showering strips your skin of its essential oils, which is necessary to keep it hydrated and protected. So it's okay to go without showering for a day or two.
See, guys, tell me if y'all. I know y'all been seeing it in the freaking in the social media spheres, bro. Like, there's been a lot of freaking celebrities talking about how they really don't be shown that at all, or like they only do it like, I guess like once a week or something like that. Please tell me y'all don't follow that, bro. Don't be funky, secrets.
Secret rooms hidden in famous locations. In the Statue of Liberty, there's a small room hidden inside the torch, but no one can enter inside because it was damaged by the Germans in 1916. And although it was repaired, they still don't allow anyone inside just as a safety precaution. Mount Rushmore is famous for the 4 sculpted faces of the previous American presidents. But behind them is a secret vault, and inside is the secret Krabby Patty formula. Just kidding, they keep historical documents back there, like the Declaration of Independence, and the biography of the sculpture, and the history of construction, but no one can access them. Inside Big Ben, there's a secret room by the bell tower. Although it's no longer in use, it used to be a prison for people who breached the code of conduct, and I have no idea what that means. But before I show you the coolest one, I just found this game that you'll never want to get rid of. Build your own fortress and attack other people, and you can get it right here. The Tower of London is one of the most famous fortresses in the world. Underneath it is a pub that you can only get invited to by one of the other members.
What is the dumbest reason you can think of somebody committing a crime? I'm about to one-up your thought right now. This man from Pennsylvania behind me named Benjamin Gowell killed his girlfriend because he didn't like her haircut. And just because he didn't like her haircut, he stabbed her to death. This happened on Sunday, November 3rd at 1 p.m. in East Hempfield, Pennsylvania. Police were called, the EMTs transported 2 people out, and 1 person was pronounced dead at the scene, so there was 3 people involved here. The victim was Carmen Martinez Silva. Her brother was also present there. I'm assuming he tried to fight the suspect, her boyfriend, off. Her brother would get stabbed in the skull, and Carmen would be pronounced dead at the scene. They found Benjamin Gowell's kitchen knife in his car. Apparently Carmen was a little fearful of Gowell, so she went over to her daughter's place. Her daughter gave her a haircut, and that just infuriated him for some reason. She was scared to go back, so she went to her brother's place. That's when she informed him she would like to end the relationship because he was being crazy. He knocked on the brother's door. The brother told him she is not here. He came back a few minutes later with a knife, stabbed him, broke through their house, and then stabbed her multiple times. This is all over a haircut. A haircut's the thing that apparently sent this guy over the edge. Now he has 3 counts of aggravated assault, a homicide count, an attempted homicide count, and a bunch of reckless endangering counts. Obviously, with his girlfriend dying now, he will probably be getting life in prison. That's a first-degree murder right there.
Over a damn haircut, really? That has to be one of the most dumbest crimes we've heard yet. People, man, be doing the most stupidest things for no reason. Life in prison for a haircut.
You have to hear this. An Uber driver claims that he actually picked up a group of ghosts. A man in Savannah, Georgia, a town that is well known for its paranormal activity, says that he used to work for a car service. One night, the man whose name is William was sent to pick up 3 ladies from Foley House, a historic bed and breakfast in the heart of the city. When he got there, he saw 3 women dressed up in what he described as Southern Belle outfits. He said that he picked them up and they got in the cab. They were going to Elizabeth on 37th Street. He said that they were all chatting and laughing in the back seat, and he was having a good time just cruising. Williams said that when he got to the destination, he turned around and said, "Ma'am, your fare is going to be such and such." But shockingly, there was nobody else in the cab. He called his boss to tell him the unexplainable story, but before he could begin, his boss grew angry, asking him if he had picked up the 3 ladies from the Foley House. He said that he did, but there was nobody in the cab. To this day, William believes that he picked up 3 ghosts instead of the paying customers that had requested the ride.
Islands on Earth that if you
Ghost
go to,
Uber?
you will die. Up first is North Sentinel Island. It is home to the Sentinelese tribe. Those who go never make it out alive. Next is Spider Island. It's home to most of the biggest and deadliest spiders in the world. And trust me, these can definitely kill you. Next is Monkey Island. You've probably never heard of this, but this is a remote island in Puerto Rico, and it's home to some of the deadliest monkeys in the world. All the monkeys on this island carry one of the most lethal infections in the world. Finally, and this is probably the worst one, Reunion Island. The surrounding waters are completely overrun by sharks, and the population keeps increasing rapidly. In total, there have been 50 shark attacks at this island.
And people still go there? Monkey Island, Spider Island, Shark Island. It's like, pick your poison. Which one do you want to go? Which one you want to go to? If you had to choose out of all those 3, what would you pick, man? What you think you could survive on? I wanna know.
Creepy relics of early 2000s Craigslist are completely unmatched. So back in the early 2000s, Craigslist was just this safe haven for some of the darkest fringes of society. It's the only way I can describe it. And just first off, we all know what a septic tank is, correct? They're very common, they have to be pumped, a lot of homes have them. So let's discuss the Alabama man who would pay you to go into yours. So his official ad says, "Some might judge me for this, but it's what I enjoy. I will pay you $150 an hour to bring my equipment in and gain access to your septic tank. I then have my associate close the tank. After I set up my tripod and camera up, believe it or not, it's a great place to reflect." And very unsurprisingly, not long after, a lot of videos leaked on LiveLeak of what was known as Septic Tank Man. Absolutely, the videos are shocking, but I think the more shocking part is how long ago this was and that nobody has ever identified who this man really was in Alabama.
The absolute scariest moments captured on camera. This eye-wrenching footage recorded on the 12th of January 2021 shows a group of people in a boat when a massive iceberg collapses. When the iceberg collapsed, it made a terrifying wave that was over 30 feet high.
Damn.
The group of people in the boat try to get away as fast as they can as this monstrous wave follows them. Thankfully, they get away safely just in time. That wave could have easily wiped them out.
It could have. Yeah, they hit the jets on that boat, bro. Full drive. Man, pictures, like I said, they tell a story. You never know, man. At the right moment, it could be your last moment, bro.
Kids with Real Superpowers Part 1. This kid, whose name is this one, I don't know how to pronounce it, and he's called the Cat Boy because he can see in the dark. As you can see, he has very bright blue eyes, and when he was seen by the doctors and asked many questions, they ended up in the conclusion that he can see in the dark. But there are a lot of people who claim that this is fake. Do you believe it's true or not?
When they entered the apartment, what they found was disturbing. The first thing that they saw was a skinny 4-year-old Benji with 2 big black eyes. But not just that, Benji had bruises all over his body. He also had an injury in his ear, and because of that, he had a gauze just like sticking out of his ear. The officer said that he was very skinny and did not look like a normal 4-year-old. When they asked why did Benji have all these injuries, Miranda and Brandon said that he had behavioral issues and that he would do this to himself. They said that he had a habit of constantly poking his eyes and ears, and that's why it caused those injuries. Then officers decided to bring Benji alone into the bathroom, and they asked him again, what happened to you? Benji said the same thing his parents said and told the officers that he did it to himself and that he poked at his eyes and ears. But when you watch the video, it doesn't sound genuine, and it kind of sounds like Benji was rehearsed and told to say that. They had locks on their fridge, on their kitchen cabinets, and everywhere where there was food. They also noticed a lot of cameras set up in the apartment, especially in the kitchen. From their point of view, it just looked a little bit odd. Why are there so many locks and why is there cameras everywhere? Now, they retrieved all these cameras and began looking at all the footage, and I was not prepared to see what I saw. I think this was one of the saddest videos I've seen in a while. Watching how this boy would sneak out of his room in the middle of the night to look for food, it literally broke my heart. It was said that before Miranda moved into the home, Benji was able to just go in and out of the cabinets and fridge and get whatever he wanted. But then these locks were added and it became more difficult for Benji to get food.
These identical twin sisters were pure evil. In 1952, in the quiet town of Eldridge, there were 2 identical twin sisters, Emily and Evelyn. On the surface, they appeared to be normal, sweet girls, but beneath that, they hid a sinister nature. A new girl named Clara moved into town, quickly gaining popularity, which angered the twins. The attention shifted away from them, and they grew envious. One evening, they invited Clara to a secret gathering in the woods, promising her a magical experience. The next morning, Clara was nowhere to be found. The town buzzed with rumors, but no one had proof of what happened. Weeks later, the twins' mother, Lorraine, overheard a disturbing conversation while passing by their room. She pressed her ear to the door and heard the chilling words, "We need another one." Clara wasn't enough. Horrified, Lorraine burst into the room, but it was empty. On the twins' beds, she found 2 dolls, identical to her daughters, and a 3rd doll with Clara's face. The twins were never seen again. Some say they still wander the forests, waiting to claim their next victim.
What do you guys think? Is that like a creepy folklore story? Because there'd be some realism to that. I think that's a folklore to me. I think that we heard a folklore story right there. But
These are the scariest serial killers from each state, part 1. Up first is Nanny Doss from Alabama, also known as the Giggling Granny. She married 5 times and murdered 4 of her husbands, and the only one that survived was her first husband. She also poisoned 11 of her family members. Her first 2 victims were her children, who allegedly died from food poisoning. She got the nickname the Giggling Granny because she would always laugh at the crime she committed. She killed 11 people and is definitely the scariest serial killer from Alabama.
You telling me it's her own daughters?
As of right now, this is definitely my top 10, absolutely top 5. It is easily one of the most uniquely effective horror movies. This movie is about a woman named Ella who is a stop-motion animator working with her mother. And when the mother becomes hospitalized, it is up to Ella to finish her mother's vision, which Ella doesn't really want to do. And with the help of this random little girl from down the hallway, Ella tries to create a film like no other. However, when the world of reality and the world of stop motion start to really bleed together, it's going to make you wonder for the entire runtime of the movie, what is real? Now, in my opinion, I absolutely loved this movie. I don't know if the director is a genius or accidentally one. Because everything in this movie just somehow works, and it works without answering all of your questions. It is a very dreamlike and ethereal type movie, so from the start you're kind of questioning about everything, which some people are gonna love and some people are really not gonna like. And it goes without saying, the stop motion animation in this is perfectly creepy. If you've seen any of the previous works of the director, take the weirdness and tone of that and put it into a movie. Now, as far as like what type of scares to be prepared for in this movie, it's a good mix of a lot of different things. A handful of jump scares here and there, but what is really effective is when the purpose of the movie is just to solely creep you out. But a warning to the squeamish, there are a couple of body horror scenes that can be kind of rough. They're extraordinarily well done. Just keep that in mind towards the end. Now, stop motion has a very limited run in theaters. Hopefully there's more showings in the future. But the good news is stop motion will be streaming on Shudder on May 31st. If you've seen this movie, what do you guys think?
What if I told you the mother behind me
you
was
seen that?
feeding her sons to cannibals? Behind me is Klara Maurova. She's from the Czech Republic and she had 2 sons, Jacob and Andrej. Her and her sister were part of this weird cult called the Grail movement. They believed by doing good deeds that they would go to heaven. Now here's where it gets dangerous. This cult also believed that they were free to commit any crimes they wanted to and nothing would affect them. And they were also cannibals. Things now got even stranger when her sister showed up with an adopted Norwegian child named Annika. She was 13 years old. Some people believe she was actually 30 and posing as a child. She was in a trafficking ring and had a lot of sympathy for her. Soon, Klara started to forget about her sons and started thinking about adopting Annika as her own. That's when this weird doctor started emailing and texting her out of nowhere. He claimed to be Annika's physician. She met up with him, he showed her her medical records, he gained her trust. The doctor said to Klara that you cannot adopt Annika because her sons are so mean to her. This was the doctor's plan all along as a cult leader. You guys remember that cult I was talking about at the beginning of the video? The doctor is like the head of this cult. He said to fix this, she needs to beat her boys as much as she can, for every little thing, and she fell for it. This was to cure their evil spirits. The doctor said these treatments are not working now. You need to take them to a cottage very far off from everyone else. She met up there. There were several people there, including her sister and Annika's brother. The boys were put in cages and tortured in every single way you could think possible. People there started to skin the boys and eat their flesh. They also made the boys eat their own flesh as well. And Annika, the 13-year-old, she kept saying the boys were still being mean to her to continue this abusive cycle. She was also part of that cult and she was not 13. The whole cottage shock therapy ended and they went back home. The boys were treated the exact same back home though by their mother Klara. They were put in a cellar and locked up in there. Annika was living life in a room with a ton of toys and got everything she wanted. She was basically manipulating Klara this entire time. Now here's the way that she got caught and it is crazy. Her neighbor was setting up a baby monitor for his newborn baby. Now, back in like the early 2000s, if you had a baby monitor nearby, it could pick up that signal and you could see what's in there. It could jam a little bit. He managed to see these boys tied up in cages in her basement. Could you imagine the horrifying look he had on his face seeing this? And he did what every good person would do. He called the police immediately to get them some help. The police came, everybody was arrested. Klara, her sister, and Annika. And it turns out Annika was a 33-year-old woman. Her real name was Barbara Sklorova. This is a picture of Barbara Sklorova right here, aka Annika, and she was the basis for the movie Orphan. In case the story is sounding familiar, it's basically Orphan. The doctor was actually the father of that girl Annika, aka Barbara. And Klara's sister was in on this cult the entire time and manipulated her. They all got about 5 to 10 years in prison. This story definitely had the wildest turn of events I've read about.
5 to 10 years after all that? I never even knew Orphan was based off that. I've seen that picture before. That's how I saw the simulators. I'm like, it's always freaking truth behind those stories, man. In media, what we're seeing now. It's a shame.
This is how you would survive if you were in a zombie apocalypse. It's Saturday. You're in your room watching Netflix. But alone though, because you're single forever. All of a sudden, you get an emergency alert on your phone. A zombie apocalypse is real and has just begun. The news report states that global warming melted a glacier that had ancient viruses in it. Those viruses spread like wildfire. giving humans erotic and aggressive behavior. The virus spreads by saliva, so it causes its host to bite uninfected humans, similar to rabies. To survive, the virus feeds on your flesh, slowly deteriorating anybody it infects. 1 minute into the zombie apocalypse, you start to panic, still processing what's going on, what you just saw. You call and check on all your family members, but you don't go to their homes because anybody can be infected and you're afraid. 3 minutes in, you calm yourself down, lock your doors and windows, and think about running to the gun store for protection and the supermarket to get food and supply. But you decide not to, because remember, where there are people, there are zombies. 20 minutes in, you realize you can't do this alone. You won't survive without a good crew. After all, teamwork makes the dream work. You call your loyal friends, families, anyone you know that can join your crew. 46 minutes in, you start thinking strategically. You wear all your leather clothes so that if a zombie tries to bite you, it's harder for him to get through. You leave your car because eventually it'll run out. It'll need gas. So you grab your bike instead. Plus, a car makes too much noise anyway. 3 hours later, you and your crew are finally all together. You're safer this way. The first plan of action is to get out of the city. It's crowded with people who can potentially be zombies. So you need to go to a more secluded area. You and the crew decide to go north, where the temperature is much more colder and can potentially make the zombies move a little slower. 2 days in, on your way out of the city, zombies attack. One of your crew members gets bitten. They tell you to take them out before they turn into a monster. You don't want to, but sadly you honor your friend's wishes and continue on. 3 days in, you guys are now living in a cabin you found in the woods. You don't have much supplies, so you and 2 of your crew members volunteer to go get some. All you have is a knife for protection. You guys find a local store 30 minutes away and grab everything you need. All of a sudden, zombies come running in. One jumps on your back before you can even react and tries biting you, but the leather jacket you have on protects you. Thank God he couldn't get through. You use the knife you have and take him out. You and your crew hop on the bikes to get away, but sadly one of your members get devoured. 5 days in, you can't stay in this cabin hideout anymore. It's surrounded by zombies. More and more zombies are starting to appear in the area. You and the crew decide that it's actually time to pack up and head out. You need better protection, so y'all find a local abandoned building. It's made of bricks, so this should be a little more safer. You block off all the entrances you can find. You need to recharge, so you all rest while switching shifts, being the lookout. 10 days in. It's only been 10 days, but it feels like forever. You manage to get more supplies more wisely this time. These supplies will keep you alive for days. You get non-perishables, like rice, canned food, beans,
Stock
and
up.
oatmeal. 1 month in. The area is swarming with zombies. You can't stay in this building any longer. You and the crew head to the docks to find a boat to travel in. It'll be safer this way because zombies can't swim. Finally, you guys find one and can sail to a new location. You guys jump off the boat to go find food. You have hunting and fishing gear. While hunting, all of a sudden you hear a loud whoop. It's a bear. Not only a bear though, it's a zombie bear. The virus is now spreading to animals. You and the crew make a run for it, back to the boat. 4 months in, you got no more food and the crew is starving. It's only 3 of you left and you're stuck on the boat. The engine will no longer start. It's out of gas. Zombie animals and people are surrounding the area. You pray, and you guys listen to the radio to figure out if there's any good news or any updates. Everything just seems hopeless. 4 months and 8 days in. This is it. You've lost hope. You and your friends are done for. There's only 3 of you. But you want to live. You don't want to die, but you're starving. You have no other choice but to eat your friends.
Oh, man.
1 year in. You finally stay in a fort you built, but zombies are surrounding it. Luckily, you were smart enough to build traps all around. You sneak through an underground tunnel which leads to the backyard where you can escape. Just in time before they got in your fort. 1.5 years in. You're on the radio and you discover there's a colony that survived. They're looking for other survivors. You send an SOS immediately. It won't be long before you are noticed and possibly eaten by zombies. You are on your last leg. No food, no water, no shelter. You barely have strength to walk. You start to lose all hope. All of this was for nothing. But then you hear a helicopter up above. It's the survival colony you sent the SOS to. They rescue you.
If you're thinking about going skiing or snowboarding this winter, you might want to watch this video. On March 2023, Francis Zuber was skiing on Mount Baker in Washington when he randomly noticed a snowboard just laying on the snow. As he got closer to the snowboard, it began moving around, so he realized that there was someone stuck beneath the snow. The man trapped beneath 6 feet of snow was 40-year-old Ian Staker, who fell headfirst in a tree well. And a tree well is an area around the base of a tree that gets filled with snow, so if you happen to get yourself in there, it is difficult to get out. Ian was stuck beneath 6 feet of snow for about 10 minutes before Francis spotted him. Francis began removing the snow with a shovel that he had in his bag, and you can see in this video how much snow there was and how deep Ian was in there. Ian said that he was pretty sure he wasn't going to make it out on that day, especially because he had been under the snow for about 10 minutes already, and he knew that if he went over 15 minutes, he would suffocate. In fact, Ian would go on to say that one of his close friends passed away a couple of months earlier after he fell in a tree well on that same mountain. And what's absolutely incredible and what some people call a coincidence is that Francis, the man that saved his life, wasn't even supposed to be skiing on that side of the mountain on that day, and the only reason he was there was because he ran into some of his friends and decided to go skiing with them on that mountain.
These are the...
And even fate seekers, man, was it fated for him to be on that mountain that day, like I said, to save that man? For that man, I think to be in a, not falling that same exact tree well as his friend, but to even I guess, snowball on that mountain after what happened to his friend, that was a sign right there. Sometimes you gotta pay attention to the sign seekers. You never know.
Strangest things found inside people's bodies. Part 7. In 1999, an Indian man became the world's first pregnant man, even though he was born a biological male. You see, one day, Sanju Bhagat was dealing with a swollen stomach and was having difficulty breathing. So he went to the doctor to get it checked out, where they discovered a large mass inside him. When they took him in for surgery, they found gallons of liquid inside his stomach and an underdeveloped fetus. This was because Sanju was once a twin and consumed the other sibling inside the mother's womb, but this wasn't discovered until this moment. Next, in 2003, a Japanese woman discovered a rare tumor inside her ovaries. It's called a teratoma, and it can grow muscles, hair, and even bones and teeth. However, this teratoma also developed limbs, eyes, and a brain. In other words, it had pretty much everything it needed to become a conscious creature on its own, which is terrifying. And lastly, in 2014, an Australian man named Dylan Thomas came home from a vacation in Bali when he discovered a painful red line going from his belly button up his torso. And after 3 days of pain, doctors discovered that there was a spider crawling under his skin. Apparently, Thomas had just had an appendectomy performed on him, and the spider somehow snuck its way into his scar. Yeah, have fun trying to sleep tonight.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you, Part 1. Famous poet Edgar Allan Poe married his 13-year-old step-cousin at the age of 27. What are you doing, Step Poe? There is a legal pee-pee size in Iceland, and this comes from the Middle Ages where a man and a woman got married, and on their wedding night, the woman was so disappointed with how small it was that she took him back to the church to get a divorce. And because of her, a law was made that requires you to be 3 inches to get married. During times of war, some armies would wipe their poop on their weapons so that when they stab their enemies, they get that extra poison damage. There are many letters between Benjamin Franklin and various women that suggest that he might have had a fart fetish. The person who wrote Frankenstein lost her virginity on the top of her mother's grave. Great writer, but terrible funeral manners.
Yeah, those facts are blowing my reality.
Animals discovered in 2024, Part 1. Firstly, I present to you the skeleton panda sea squirt that was recently discovered off the coast of Japan in 2024. These sea creatures can live up to 7 to 30 years, and scientists really aren't too sure why they look like this, but they named them skeleton panda sea squirts because they literally look like baby skeletons dressed up for Halloween. This is awesome. Next, breeders in the US have recently just created a new hybrid cat. Meet the XL Bully Cat, which is mixed with the Sphinx and Munchkin cat. However, governments are already saying that don't buy this cat due to its health problems by not having any hair and short legs. Yeah, I was not expecting this in 2024. Finally, in June, researchers found a new species of piranha-like fish, which looks like this right here. And they decided to name this fish Sauron, after Lord of the Rings, because these researchers seriously believe it looks just like it. And I mean, they're not really wrong.
Isn't that scary to think about, Seekers, man? Like, we still discovering new animals, new breeds in the oceans. That goes to show you how vast the ocean is, man. And if you really put it into context, it's the year 2024 and we still discovering new things about the ocean. It makes you wonder what else is lurking down there, man. That's why I don't be ruling out mermaids and sirens and things like that when I be watching this with you guys, because you truly never know.
Here are some dirty history facts I can guarantee you were never taught. Part 2. If you ever told your history teacher any of these, they definitely go, what the fuck? According to private investigator Fred Stash, JFK was apparently a one-pump wonder, if you know what I mean. Ladies, for this one, I'm so sorry. For birth control, the Egyptian used a mix of ingredients. Specifically 2, which included crocodile poop mixed with honey, and they would put it, yeah. Next, large eggplants, if you know what I mean, on the males of ancient Greece, were actually a sign of stupidity. Hence why all the statues have small ones, as it's actually a sign of being an intellect. Fuck! Stories go that King Tut was actually excited when he was mummified. That is definitely what I call a 2,000-year-old happy sleep. And finally, the whoopee cushion, revolutionary in today's society. But it actually dates back to the 14-year-old Roman Empire Elagabalus, when his whole legacy became inventing the whoopee cushion and pranking his dinner guests. Legend.
True prank legend, bro. Clap it up for him.
These are dirty animal facts you wish you never knew about. Part 3. Up first, petting birds actually turns them on. They will start panting and shaking, and sometimes even puke on you. So the next chance you get to pet a bird, you might want to think twice about doing it. Next up, frogs sometimes might make a home out of elephant's poop. They do this because it provides shelter from the sun, and all the bugs crawling around in it make for an easy quick snack for the frog. This is absolutely disgusting, and it kind of ruined my day. Next up, several species of birds keep cool by pooping on themselves. It's called heroijosis, and it's how some birds like storks, condors, flamingos, and vultures keep cool. It seems to do the same thing as sweating, except that instead of sweat, these birds dribble poop down their legs.
Hey, man. But there's something new every day. Birds poop on themselves to keep themselves cool. Like I said, 7 species. You're going to have to look that up. Because I never do that.
You know how bad it was? They didn't get a scientific name for hundreds of years, literally because the sailors traveling with them kept eating them before they made it back to London. So the giant tortoise population in Hispaniola Island was down ghastly. We're talking 12 females and 2 males away from getting discontinued permanently. That wasn't until they found a 3rd male, Diego. Diego peeped the census and knew what time it was. He locked in. They said, go Diego, go, and he came and went, and came, and went, and came, and then went.
Okay.
3 males were brought into the breeding program to try to save the species, and Diego proceeded to score a career high in spreading thighs. More rounds than Nick's cannon, the shell hefner got so active that he spawned over 900 children and fathered 40% of the turtles born in the breeding program. Immortalizing him as a tortoise that laid so much pipe, he carried the species. But there's something I didn't tell you. I said there were 3 males, but it was really Diego and friend, because turtle number 3 literally couldn't get laid if his species depended on it. Boy is more interested in Diego, but speaking of Diego, remember, I said 40%. That means turtle number 2 put in more work than he did. That turtle was E5, and I'm not a mathematologist, but numbers say he contributed 60%. But apparently, because Diego was a bigger and louder personality, he stole all the clout. Being named E5 probably didn't help. Either way, the turtle tag team saved their entire species, which now has more than 2,300 on the island. And both tortoises have since retired, and were returned back to Hispaniola to live with their turtle progeny, almost 80 years after they were first recruited. Moral of the story? Closed mouths don't get fed, especially when you're named after one of Elon's kids.
Just putting up freaking numbers, bro. They carried into these species, man. They saved them all. Tag team too, bro.
Was Buddha considered a Christian saint? The Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church both honor 2 saints named Balaam and Josephat. On closer inspection, the story of this Indian prince, Josephat, appears strikingly similar to the life of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. But how did this come to be? Well, the story originates from an early Christian adaptation of Siddhartha Gautama's life. As Buddhism traveled through Central Asia, its teachings spread along the trade routes to the Middle East. Here it was adapted into other belief systems like Manichaeism. In the 8th century, Islamic scholars translated a Buddha biography into Arabic as Kitab Bilawar wa Buddhasaf, which means the Book of Bilawar and Buddhasaf. By the 11th century, it was translated into Greek, where it became known as Barlam and Josephat. This adaptation recast the Buddha story into a Christian moral tale, with Josaphat as a prince who renounces wealth after guidance from Balaam, a Christian hermit. This version aligned with the Christian teachings on renunciation and devotion.
Artifact porn, part
Okay.
30.
Nice
This
little
is an
things.
ancient burial mound in Marathon, Greece, that contains the ashes of 192 Athenians who perished in the Battle of Marathon more than 2,500 years ago. It's an extremely rare surviving piece of Tyrian purple dye that was found in the remains of an ancient Roman bathhouse. The color was used to create the famed purple clothing of Roman emperors and was extremely difficult to make. Just 1 ounce of Tyrian dye took 250,000 snails to produce, as it was said to be worth more than 3 times its weight in gold. These photos show the incredible evolution of ancient Greek statues over the span of just a few hundred years. Just this past summer, a tourist at a beach in Bulgaria noticed a beach bar table that looked considerably old. Law enforcement soon called in some archaeologists who eventually identified the item as a 1700-year-old ancient Roman sarcophagus. Information about the artifact's history and how it ended up on a beach resort remain unclear.
That's the true question. How did it end up there?
Know the chilling child abduction story behind the Amber Alert system?
No.
It was January the 13th, 1996 in Arlington, Texas. Amber Hagerman was just 9 years old. She'd been biking around the area near to her nan's house with her 5-year-old brother Ricky. She had a new bike that she'd been given for Christmas, so she was really enjoying playing on it. Now the pair were cycling up and down. They weren't going too far, but it was obviously a different time back then, and children used to just play freely outside. However, within seconds, this innocent bike ride would turn deadly. Ricky told his family later that he saw his sister bike into a car park and then vanish. Another eyewitness from the scene saw much more than that. A man in his 70s reported seeing the child get grabbed by a man in a black truck. The man looked in his 20s or 30s, according to the witness. The witness then obviously promptly phoned police. Despite a big search for the little girl, they had absolutely no idea where she'd gone. They kept hunting and found nothing until a dog walker stumbled upon something horrific 4 days later. Tragically, in a nearby creek was little Amber's body. She'd been stripped and her throat cut by either a knife or a screwdriver. Her body was found less than 5 miles away from where she was snatched. Now, police desperately searched for leads but came up with absolutely nothing. The local community were really anxious to try and do something to help. In the absence of being able to track down Amber's killer, a local woman, Diane Simone, rang into a local radio station. She wondered if a national alert system could be created to send information to people about missing children, like they do for severe weather warnings. With that, the AMBER system was born. The acronym stood for America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response. Tragically, Amber's murder still remains unsolved 28 years later. However, the Amber Alert created in her honor has gone on to save many more children who may have otherwise ended up dead.
2024 just got even crazier. Part 17.
Firstly, just recently, while a tourist was at a beach bar in Bulgaria, he noticed that the table they were using looked odd. And it looked so odd, he called the authorities. Well, it turned out they were actually using a 1,700-year-old Roman coffin as a table. Yeah, the table was then taken away by the authorities, and my question is, how did they even come across this ancient artifact?
Yeah.
Next, the Mountain Dew just announced that they are changing their logo back to their similar retro style on all of their products by 2025. You know, this is one of the first logo changes I actually like. Finally, just a couple weeks ago, the world's fattest cat, named Crumbs, who was 38 pounds, was sent to a fat camp to help Crumbs lose weight. Well, unfortunately, the fat camp was just too much for Crumbs, and Crumbs died after just weeks of being at the fat camp. R.I.P. Crumbs, what did they do to you?
RP Combs, man, down below, bro. How you get sent to a fan camp? You're supposed to lose weight, not lose everything, man. That's crazy.
Crazy tech facts you won't believe. Google rents goats to mow their lawns instead of machines. Over 90% of the world's currency only exists in digital form. The first computer virus was created in 1983. The first camera took 8 hours to capture a single photo. Can you believe we used to wait 8 hours for a single photo? Now with Send It, you can create AI images of yourself in seconds. It return, she'll ask me anything answers into AI pictures. Someone asked me where I'd love to travel to and send it make this. You have to try this out, download, send it, and unlock your AI clone. Things that have been banned across the world, part 3. Japan made obesity illegal in 2008. Iceland made strip clubs illegal in 2010. China made time travel illegal in 2011. Blue jeans have been banned in North Korea since 2010.
Blue Jeans, man. Don't they have, like, I'm about to say, isn't it a music group named Blue Jeans? The reason I know that's because, you know, FaZe Jason, bro, he blew up the freaking TikTok that went viral with the Blue Jeans song, so. But they freaking banned Blue Jeans in 2010. Time travel in China 2011, what they hiding from us, bro? And obesity's illegal in Japan. That's crazy that they made obesity illegal, bro.
18-year-old girl named Donna lived with her father, and ever since her mother died, she depended on her father for everything. One day, Donna's father left for a business trip and said he wouldn't be back until later that night. Later that day, Donna got home from school and watched TV, and when the clock struck midnight, she noticed her father wasn't back, so she went to bed. That night, Donna had a dream where she was standing on a busy highway. She then saw her father trying to yell something to her. She couldn't hear him, but noticed he looked sad and was desperately trying to communicate with her. She could barely make out what he was saying, but it sounded like, "Don't open the door." Donna then woke up to someone ringing the doorbell. She then went to the door and looked through the peephole and saw her father's face outside. He was staring right at her and the doorbell was still ringing. She was about to open the door when she looked through the peephole again and noticed her father's eyes were wide open and he looked terrified. The doorbell then continued ringing as Donna begged her dad to answer her. She then yelled, "I'm not opening the door until you answer me." The doorbell kept ringing, but her father refused to answer her. Donna then sat in the corner next to the door crying and listening to the doorbell ringing. She then fell asleep and woke up in the morning. She then got up and looked through the peephole and her father was still there. She then opened the door and saw something truly horrifying. Her father's severed head was hanging from a nail above the door and there was a note attached to the doorbell that said, "Clever girl."
Don't open that door, man, unless you hear a response. That's the moral of the story, that what I took from it. You never know who's lurking. That's an edit, bro. We see through that.
Will blow your mind. In a world's first, researchers at Osmo Labs have achieved the teleportation of smell. I mean, do you realize how crazy that is? Let me put it this way. So, as of right now, humans have only figured out how to teleport two of our senses. Sound, you know, with the telephone or speakers, and images with the screens that we look at all day. And we've done that because we've discovered a way to capture those senses digitally and then turn them into data that we can then send instantly. But now they've managed to do that with smell. So hypothetically, once they're able to replicate this process on machines outside of the lab, not only one day could you send someone a smell like you send them an image or a voice note. Oh my lord, the businesses that are going to come out of that one. I'll let the comments handle that. But also, and here's the craziest part, they say that by digitizing scent, they've effectively given computers a new sense. You better wake up in 2030 and your iPhone's going to tell you you stink. Go get a shower. Now the first smell they ever digitized was fresh plum. They captured the scent molecules in a digital format and then reprinted the exact same smell on the other side of the room, which came out looking like a regular clear liquid. And I guess that begs the question, what's going to happen to all of these expensive colognes once you can immediately reproduce them? Osmo Labs CEO on Twitter said, "Holy moly, I am still processing the magnitude of what we've done."
19-year-old woman whose body was found burned inside one of these walk-in ovens in Walmart. Let's hear what the employees have to say about all of this.
Okay, these ovens are so hard to shut from the outside. You have to push them. I'll show you.
Okay.
See that? You have to push it to click it. Now, watch me walk in. Look, I can touch both sides. You can touch both sides. You scrape the floor. You have to clean the floor all the time. There's no way this door, they're not self-shutting. You could even say you swing it open too hard when you get something out of the oven. Let's see what happens.
Alright. Not closing.
This is one of the good ovens I've worked with. I worked with are stores where they don't even latch. You have to hold it shut while it bakes for 30 minutes. There are stores where it pops open, you have to shut it, pops open, shut it, pops open, shut it. There is no way that this girl locked herself into one of these ovens while cleaning it. No way possible. There's no way possible. I'm going to show you the emergency button.
Emergency button 2?
Pops the door open. Pops the door open. In my opinion, there's no way she did that on her own.
So I've been seeing plenty of these videos where Walmart employees are showing us how these walk-in ovens work. But just to be clear, all the ovens in these Walmarts, depending on the location, are a bit different. They're not identical, but a lot of the features are almost the same. Something I consistently hear from the Walmart employees is that the door does not close on its own. Unless you try to close it with a lot of force, it doesn't just close and lock. There's also this inside the door, so if anyone was to get stuck, they can just easily open it and get out. Every video that I've watched created by a Walmart employee who works with these walk-in ovens insinuate that this young woman did not get stuck and that something else happened.
What do you guys think? Something else happened?
By growing brains in a jar and connecting them to a computer made from stem cells that were stimulated in a special way to form neural tissue, which grew and eventually formed structures and even brainwave activity similar to that of a premature human baby. They then hooked up this brain into a computer, connecting it into a virtual world where it learned to play Pong completely from scratch. I want you to realize what this means. Like, this isn't a computer bot that was pre-programmed to know exactly how to play the game. That's easy. It's an organic brain that they grew themselves that was given Pong with no instructions, and it just taught itself how to play. Which is honestly nothing new. That's just AI. But this is organic AI, which happens to learn quicker and is also more energy efficient than traditional AI. It learned to play Pong in about 10 to 15 rallies, when a regular computer AI would take around 5,000. Albeit the computer AI can simulate those 5,000 rallies much quicker, but that takes a lot more computing power, which is sort of our main bottleneck with AI at the moment. Energy. This is organoid intelligence. Take human brain cells, grow them in a petri dish, and then use computers to train them just like AI. Naturally, there are ethical concerns rising as there is surmounting evidence showing us that these are conscious, like a human. Even the scientists working on it themselves admit these organoids are sentient. They took it a step further and tested out these organoid brains inside real physical robots, feeding them the sensory input of everything the robot experiences. And since the computer chip running it is organic brain matter, this technically, by definition, is a cyborg. Then there are companies like Final Spark that let you rent server space on these organoid brains, which essentially act like organic CPUs. You can even see live streams of the brain computers you're renting out. And now this next part right here, what they're doing here might actually prove a simulation theory. So they have this virtual butterfly simulation that's controlled by the organoid brains, meaning the brains feel and experience everything the butterflies do. Again, the brains weren't trained or programmed how to be a butterfly. Just like they did with Pong, they were just fed the sensory feelings of being butterflies and kind of figured out themselves how to flap their wings and just exist. Much the same way you weren't pre-programmed to walk or talk. You experienced sensory inputs in the forms of sight, sounds, touch, and learned. Taught yourself along the way. This is an organic brain being fed computer data to make it believe it actually exists in a simulated world, and it's also likely sentient. This company essentially just created the Matrix for butterflies, and its consciousness is available for you to rent out. And when no one's using it, it still just continues to exist with no human interaction whatsoever. If the brains really are conscious, as the scientists suggest, they're not going to know they're this organoid computer brain in a lab hooked up to a virtual simulation. They're going to believe that they really are that butterfly. If that's the case, what's stopping all of us from being our own organoid brains in some lab in a different dimension? Meaning this, everything we see and experience right now is our own simulation that we've been plugged into, except we're not butterflies, we're humans. And everything we do, every decision we make is not by our own free will, but by some, I don't know, fifth dimensional entity renting server space in our brains. Just the same way this Final Spark neural platform lets us do. And when we sleep, maybe our idle brain computational power is used for other purposes, which we experience as dreams. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. You gotta sleep tonight. Are we really brain organoids, existing in our own petri dishes, connected to and experiencing a fully virtual, simulated world? Because we just pulled it off off. And according to simulation theory, if we're capable of creating virtual simulated realities, then chances are we're already living in one.
He was spitting, bro. Gave me some new. Reality glitches caught on camera.
Reality glitches caught on camera.
This ring. In a box, I'm like, oh shit, my ring fell off.
Hmm?
No, it didn't. It's the same. I'm shaking. It's so weird.
Whoa.
No.
Okay.
My fear's happening. My fear's happening of not being able to get to my car in a parking garage. There's my car. Yep, okay. If I go down that way, that brings me down. So, I'm walking up. But when I round the corner, nothing. Can somebody please explain to me how I...
Maybe she was on a different level. I'm guessing that can explain it. That's the only way I can explain that because we just saw.
Here, doing my little thing, making TIK TOKs. I'm looking on my desk, and I see this. What the hell is this? What is this? Because it looks like it's my nails, right? Girl, I've got all my nails.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to specify, this is the first time I have ever had this design. And
so here's another rather
It just fell out of the sky out of nowhere.
It's famous for mummies, not just any mummies, incredibly naturally well-preserved mummies. Turns out you had to pay a tax on burial plots or your final resting place, whether that be in tunnels or catacombs under the city. And if nobody paid up for you, you were out. What happened was the gravediggers found out if they made a display of these mummies, they could make a bit of money. They could charge for people to come through. People would even take bits of the bodies as souvenirs. It was the original side hustle. Now it's gone legit, and there's actually a museum housing the mummies. The mysterious thing is why they didn't decompose. Could it be a strange energy source under Guanajuato? Well, people think it was the richness of the soil or the incredibly dry air that made them somehow self-embalm. But it is a little bit of a mystery. Just like the blob, it gets curiouser and curiouser.
Okay.
I'll see you in the comments. Take care.
You definitely saw me. I saw that energy spiraling, man. The map that was showing, so it looks like there was definitely some energy there. I don't know what. I saw that in the mirror. What are those kids doing? Are they practicing for like a drill or something? That was a damn skin roll. Were they on the kids? What the hell is that fish doing? It's like regurgitating freaking fish eating fish. I mean, that's not the first time I heard of it, but that was kind of crazy. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate your support. Guys, gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.